Hello, 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 everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Hello there. Hi. Today, I wanted to show all 10 of you my vinyl collection, like record collection. I have been putting it together for about 2 years now, so it's been coming together pretty good. I don't know, and I felt like I wanted to show it off. So I'm not showing it off. I don't know. I wanted to share it because I'm happy with it, I guess. So this might be a bit of a long video because I'm gonna go through them all. It's a bit of a vinyl tour, if you will, or maybe a vinyl vlog. Are the vlogs coming back? Did the vlog come back? So yeah, I'll be going through them all in order, in alphabetical order by artist's name, and then if I have more than one from an artist, I go through it in release order. That's the only reason I have that strict order, is just because that's how I organize it on the shelf. So yeah, I don't know, I guess I might as well just jump right into it. Started, this is the collection here. We have it on 2 shelves, as I said, going in alphabetical order by artist and then release order. And then I also have some up on the wall here, currently mostly just Tame Impala, but these are little racks that I use to display stuff on the wall when I feel like it, so that's what's up there for the moment. We'll get to those albums later, but yeah, now to begin over here. Okay, to start off, first we have this album right here. This is 2012 to 2017 by Against All Logic. It's a house album. If you don't know jack about house, then you'll love this. Yeah, this is a great album. Should I be rating these? I'm not gonna rate them. I don't know how to rate them. I'm not Anthony Fantano. I like this album. This is a good album. Number 2 here, this album, which is just called Battered Wives by a band called Battered Wives. It's got a very promiscuous back cover here. I don't know if you can see that there. I bought this in the $1 bin at a store. I actually haven't ever listened to the full thing, but the only reason I bought it is because the bassist in the band is named Jasper, and I am named Jasper and I play the bass, so I just bought it. Okay, since we're doing this in alphabetical order, almost right at the gate, we get into my biggest collection, the Beatles. If any of you know me well enough, you know that I've always liked this band, so yeah, I have a lot of their records because they're the one I like to collect the most. So starting right at the gate, their first studio album, Please Please Me, a almost original copy here, going back to, I don't know, this one came out a couple years after the album originally came out, I think. Yeah, I don't know, I love this album. It's a great album. You should listen to it. We got some bangers on here, like Do You Want to Know a Secret? That is a good song. If you haven't heard Do You Want to Know a Secret, you should listen to Do You Want to Know a Secret. And then next will be Help. This is a classic one. I've skipped a couple albums in their discography here, but I haven't gotten those ones yet, but I have Help. This album, very famous album cover, was based off of the movie that came out of the same name. First side being songs from the movie, second side being songs that they just added. So yeah, that's Help. Next is Rubber Soul. Now this version of Rubber Soul that I own is actually the Capitol Records version. So for those of you who don't know, the Beatles, being a British band, they published under the Parlophone label for a while, but at the same time, the people, EMI, who owned Parlophone, also owned Capitol, who made the Beatles records in the US, but Capitol Records just kind of did what they want, so they would make their own albums that the Beatles didn't make, of just like their songs mixed together, as well as they wouldn't release these albums with the exact same track list. So even though this is Rubber Soul, the track list is a bit different than the version that most people know. But yeah, there's a song on here from Help, and then there's another song that's just missing. But too bad, but whatever. I don't know. It's also a pretty old one. So next is Revolver. This is a great album. You can see that this is a new version. I didn't buy this one used or anything. I love this picture of Ringo on the back here. Fucking hilarious. What a lad. This is a gorgeous album cover, one of my favorite album covers, and for an incredible album. So yeah. And then moving on to some of their most famous, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, with the classic lyrics on the back. Fun fact, this was one of the first, if not the first time a major band had put lyrics to the songs in, like, on the album so that you could read them while you were listening to it. And that's what kind of started the idea of treating lyrics as like poetry. And I don't know, I'm not an expert, but that's what I heard. This is actually a 2-disc album here, the second disc being demos of the songs. So yeah. And then back to another used one here. This is Magical Mystery Tour. I personally love this album. Not everyone shares that same opinion, but I do. With a great kaleidoscopic background here, and some of my favorite Beatles songs, like Blue Jay Way and I'm the Walrus and Strawberry Fields, obviously. And then to one of I would say probably my second favorite Beatles album, The Beatles. It's like the self-titled one, or as most people know it, the White Album. And yeah, this one is a 2-disc album, but it was always a 2-disc album, and I love it. I love this album. This is also a new release, and I just love how just empty it is. Yeah, you can see the little embossing of their name there, or is it the album name? And then my favorite Beatles album, their next one, Abbey Road. I mean, this is one of the most famous album covers of all time, arguably the most famous. And yeah, I mean, I can't really add anything to say about this album that hasn't already been said by millions of people. So yeah, I love this album. And then we're not done yet. I have Let It Be, also on new. And I also really love this album, even though it was released after the band broke up and not really put together by the band. I still love it to pieces, especially songs like Dig a Pony, Across the Universe, and Two of Us. Just top tier stuff. And then we have this album called Hey Jude, or The Beatles Again. This was another Capitol Records album, like I was talking about earlier. This is just one of the ones that they made on their own will. This picture actually is from the final photo shoot the group took as the 4 of them. Yeah, and it's just got a mix of songs that don't really line up, but it's some songs from that era that never made it onto an album that I like. Stuff like Don't Let Me Down, Ballad of John and Yoko, and Old Brown Shoe, as well as Hey Jude. Yeah, and then we have their first compilation album, 1962 to 66, or the Red Album. And this album is, of course, the same picture as Please Please Me, and is just a compilation of the best songs from that era. And then the sister album to that one, the Blue Album, or 1967 to 1970, which is just the compilation of their best stuff from those years. And this is a picture that looks almost identical. They took this picture for the album Get Back, which was never made, but eventually became Let It Be. But they took this picture for that album, so that's why they have this matching picture here. Yeah, and then last but not least for my Beatles collection is just this little release called Rarities, which is just a collection put together by, I don't know, someone who just put together some songs they felt didn't get enough attention from the Beatles catalog. So there's some stuff on here that you don't really hear that often. For example, the German versions of their songs, Come Give Me Deine Hand, which is just I Want to Hold Your Hand, but the German version because they were popular in Germany. And one of my favorite obscure Beatles songs, You Know My Name, Look Up the Number. If you haven't heard this song, please listen to this song. It's fucking hilarious. Okay, well that is all of the Beatles, but we are still only just starting. Here we go. This one is pretty funny. Minecraft Volume Alpha by C418. This is the Minecraft soundtrack, and it is the first colored vinyl on this list, being a transparent green. I love this album, clearly. I love it enough to pay for it when I could just listen to it for free in Minecraft, but I bought it, and I don't regret that decision at all. Coloring Book by Chance the Rapper. This isn't the official vinyl release. This is a commercial version that I managed to get my hands on. This one is also on purple. Yeah, I love this album. This album was one of the first rap albums I ever got into back in around, I don't know, 2017. Yep, 2017. I love that album. And then moving on to one of my favorite artists, Childish Gambino. This is Camp, his first album, which I just got recently on vinyl. We got this nice giant gatefold 3 thing going on here. If you've never collected vinyl before, and especially if you've never collected modern music on vinyl, something that happens a lot is that a album will be slightly too long to fit on one disc, but too short to fully fill up 2 discs. So most modern records have just a couple songs per side, which is always annoying because then you've just got to be flipping it and changing it more frequently than you do with an older album that was like made for vinyl. But Childish Gambino solved this problem by making side A, B, and C the album, and then side D he filled with bonus tracks from his earlier discography, meaning that you don't have to waste as much time. So yeah, shout out to Gambino for that. And then my favorite Gambino album, Because the Internet. Do I love this album? This was one of the first records I got when I started my collection. Like, it was literally in the original, I think it was like 8 or 10 that I bought, as well as Sgt. Pepper's earlier. Yeah, I love this record. And it also comes with a screenplay printed in a book, because he wrote a screenplay that goes along with the album, and this is technically the only, I guess, official release of this screenplay. I mean, you can find it online, but it was never made into anything. It's just meant to be read as you listen to the album. So yeah, great album. And then another great Gambino album that is a must-have for vinyl, Awaken My Love. Great album. I feel like that should go without saying. Yeah, so that's that. Okay, next. Time by ELO, or Electric Light Orchestra, or better known as the guys who made Mr. Blue Sky. This is an incredible album. It is like a synth pop, crazy concept album from the 80s, about a man getting teleported to the future and how he misses his wife and how he can't adjust to the new crazy land of 2095. And it's basically like a pulp sci-fi story, but in music form. So I highly recommend this album if that sounds interesting to anyone. Next up, one of my favorite artists. This vinyl is a bootleg, for disclaimers, but Nostalgia Ultra by Frank Ocean. This is also a colored disc, or more accurately, no color at all. It is clear. And as it is a bootleg, you can see that the disc doesn't even fully fit into the sleeve and pokes out the side, but whatever. This is a great mixtape if you have never heard it before. Nostalgia Ultra with a American Wedding, a remix of Hotel California. I really like that song. And now, one of my favorite records that I own, and possibly my prized possession of the whole collection, Endless by Frank Ocean. Not a bootleg. This is the official release one that was only on sale for a week. I love this album to death, so I'm going to show you in detail. So it's all very shiny and everything. Same with the back, very shiny and nice. And then you take out the two discs, and Frank Ocean being extra, this is a one disc album, but he split it into two discs, each only having one side of music on it. You can see these pictures and then the lyrics on the back. The reason being, if there's music on one side, the other side has this etching. I'm gonna wobble this around, hoping that the camera catches the light, but there's an etching here that says end, and then the other one says less. So if you put them next to each other, it would read endless. Here it is up close. And it has the names of the tracks as it goes around. I won't show the other one because it's basically the same idea, but you can see the big end there. And then on the other side, of course, is the music. Oh, hello. Look at that, a little mirror. So after Frank Ocean comes G, which first brings us George Harrison, the Beatles band member. Here I have the box set edition of All Things Must Pass by George Harrison. This album is an unbelievable album. If you're a Beatles fan and have never heard this album, you are missing out. It is his first solo album after the band and is basically entirely made up of songs that he wrote during his time in the band and that the other members, being John and Paul, just rejected and told him, no, we're not making these. But you listen to them all and you're like, why didn't they make them? It has two full discs of songs that he wrote during the band, and then the third disc of a jam session, 40 minutes of jam session, which includes all of the artists on the album, which are people like Eric Clapton, Ringo Starr, and Billy Preston, and many more. Yeah, great album. One of my favorites, to be honest. And then another box set from George Harrison, the Concert for Bangladesh. So this was a concert he put on in the mid-70s during a famine in Bangladesh. And it was a charity concert, meaning all of the proceeds went to help the famine, and he, along with a bunch of his artist friends, pretty much the exact same guys I just mentioned 2 seconds ago, as well as some Rolling Stones members and Bob Dylan, all performed here, and they all had a chance to sing some of their songs. George did most of the songs, and this album is actually not on any streaming services. You can only find it physically, or I guess illegally. It's great because it's really fun to hear live versions of a lot of these songs that they never really performed live, because he does some Beatles songs and he does some songs from that album I just showed you. And even Ringo Starr sings a song, not a Beatles one. It Don't Come Easy. Next up in G is Gorillaz. This is Demon Days by Gorillaz, an amazing album from 2005 by the virtual cartoon band of Gorillaz, starring Murdoch, 2D, Russell, and Noodle. If you've never heard of this band before, you should look into them. They're pretty hilarious, but you've probably heard their song Feel Good Inc. This is a very good album. The topic-wise, it sounds like it came out today because it's talking about a lot of issues that are still extremely relevant in the modern day. So, yeah, great album. Give it a listen. I'm probably going to be saying that about a lot of albums in this video, and I mean it pretty much every time. I don't know, whatever piques your interest, I guess. And then again from Gorillaz, their most recent album, The Now Now. I personally like this album a lot. A lot of Gorillaz fans think it's decent, but not anything too crazy. I disagree. I think it's pretty solid. It's quite a bit different than the one I just showed you beforehand, but I mean, this one came out in 2018 and that one came out in 2005. So, funnily enough, for this record, one of the band members, that being Russell, or not Russell, sorry, Murdoch, got sent to jail and got replaced by Ace from the Powerpuff Girls. If you don't know who that is, look it up. I'm not joking. Like, a character from the Powerpuff Girls is part of this band. Okay, next is Badlands by Halsey. This is one of the first albums I ever got into on my own accord. As a kid, I only ever really listened to the Beatles, because that was just what my parents played me and that's what I liked the most. And then I didn't really listen to music for a while, but then come middle of middle school, I guess, I started listening to my own music, and this was one of the first albums. I think it was literally like the second album I got into. It's a great album, highly recommend. Like, again, I have been saying for every single one of these, on Nice Candy Blue. I'll be honest though, I haven't really been a fan of her work since, so too bad. Oh, little side note here that I'm adding in later. I also, this album was the first concert I ever went to, the tour for this album. It was at like Echo Beach in Toronto in like 2015. Great concert. Next is the soundtrack to Blade Runner 2049. I love soundtracks, and this is one of my favorites. Because Blade Runner 2049 is one of my favorite movies. The album cover here is just the movie poster, so not much you can get with that. Back cover is kind of cool, and it's a great album. The sleeves have some really nice stills from the movie, here being another one. If you haven't listened to this, then watch the movie. This is a pretty old used record I bought. I had to tape together some of it because it was falling apart. This is a little cloud, the rest is meant to just be blue. This is Live Peace in Toronto, by the Plastic Ono Band, aka John Lennon. So this was a live performance that John Lennon, Yoko Ono, and some backing members gave in Toronto. In 1969, so actually a year before the Beatles even broke up. This is a great little live album. The first side is John performing, and he does such an amazing job. And then the second time is Yoko Ono's songs, and they're a little weird. If you want to laugh, you should listen to them. Yeah, I don't know. That's it for John Lennon, though. I'm still trying to get his first album, Plastic Ono Band. Next, we have two pretty obscure things here. This, I don't even think you could call this obscure. This is just Johnny Good Beats. I also got this in a dollar bin. It is it's just this. I don't know what it is or where it comes from. Yeah, the beats are good. I would tell you to listen to it if I had any idea how you could. I don't know when this is from or who it's by or what it is, but it's pretty funny. Although on one side of the disc, on one side of the disc there is a huge gash. I don't know if you can see that right there. And every time the needle goes over that, it's painful to the ears, so really only listen to the other side of the disc. So if you are starting to get into vinyl collecting, or you have and you have not bought stuff from the dollar bins yet, you are missing out, because the dollar bin is where the action is. I think, I mean, most of the time you'll find some funny stuff. Okay, another dollar bin purchase here. This is Jukebox Jamboree, Grady Martin and the Slewfoot Five. This is a really odd album, and it's full of like just like weird 50s jamboree music. And if you like play it slowed down, it sounds like the thing that would be played in like a haunted diner, like some like spooky diner in a horror movie. The jukebox would be playing this music because it's weird as shit. And look at the back. I don't know what this is, but that's why it stays in this plastic thing, because I don't want whatever is going on here getting on my other records. Okay, on to another one of my favorite artists, and I am pretty sure the artist I own the second most records by, behind the Beatles, Kanye West, the GOAT. I have here The College Dropout. This is an amazing album, should go without saying. Only problem is the vinyl release gets rid of all of the skits and changes the placement of the song Through the Wire to halfway through the album as opposed to at the end of the album. Why he did this, or the record label did this, I don't know. It was a bad decision, so the streaming version of this album is better, but I still have it on vinyl because you gotta do it to him, I guess. Next, Late Registration, one of my favorite Kanye albums, if I'm being honest, probably at the number 3 spot for me. It's hard to rank Kanye albums, but yeah, I love this album. 808s and Heartbreak, one of the classics, all-time classics. We got the triple fold here. This nice fly pic of Kanye and everything. Comes with a nice poster as well, and a CD, which is hilarious because I don't have a CD player. Yep. Skipping Graduation here, because that was not an officially released album. Although it is on bootleg, I might get it one day just for the sake of it. But that album is a great album and was the first album I listened to of Kanye's discography back in 2017, and was the album that made me a big Kanye fan. Okay, next we have a Power single on 12-inch picture disc. So yeah, it's just the song Power twice, one censored, one normal, just on a screen printed disc. This is like for a while was my number 1 Kanye song. Still probably is my number 1 Kanye song. Top 3 for sure. So I saw this in the record store and I just had to get it. No regrets on that decision at all. Next, my favorite Kanye album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. There's the Power picture again, because this is also a big gatefold album here. Unlike the other ones I've shown so far, this one is actually, because there's 3 discs here. Guess sticking with the album's theme of maximalism, Kanye decided to split the album into 3 discs instead of 2, which, I'm gonna be honest, was completely unnecessary and makes this much more annoying to listen to on vinyl, but he makes up for it in some other places, like for example, this image, as you can see, is a cutout, and the album comes with all of the different artworks that came with this album that he commissioned from that artist that I can't really remember the name of. So basically you can choose whichever one you want to display, and this being my favorite one is the one I wanted to display. Also came with a poster, which is right there on my wall next to the Five Nights at Freddy's. Next, the first Kanye release after I had become a fan of his, Ye. This album came out on my graduation day. I remember listening to it the night before I graduated high school on a live stream with all of my friends, and then the morning when we were all getting ready for the ceremony, putting on our gowns and robes, we were talking about it, and it hadn't come out on streaming yet. And then one of us came in, I'm pretty sure it was Lyle, shout out to Lyle, and was like, guys, it's out, I've been listening to it all morning. Very, very good album. The song on here, Ghost Town, is in my top 5 Kanye songs easily. I love that song. But then, my second favorite Kanye album came out a week later, Kids See Ghost, which is also done by Kid Cudi. I can't diss Kid Cudi. This is a collab album, but I love this album so much. It is a wonderful, wonderful little masterpiece of 25 minutes. And every song on here is like a top tier song. And this album art, bro, like, look at it. Moving on. Still more to go. I mean, we're still only in the K's. If you're still watching, I appreciate your interest in my interests. We're back. For you, have been no time at all, except for me, it's been about 30 minutes because my phone ran out of storage halfway through shooting the video that you were just watching, and I realized that I showed off I went through quite a few of these vinyls without it ever getting recorded, so now I gotta go quite a bit back, in fact, all the way back through all of these, and then we'll be back on track. So now I have storage on my phone, so let's go. As I was saying, we are still in K, so that brings us to Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid, Mad City. Here we go. This is an amazing, amazing album. If you've heard it before, that probably goes without saying. If you haven't heard it before, you should listen to it, like I've been saying throughout this whole video, but you should listen to it because it's a very interesting story, and it is a bit of a continuous story with a bunch of skits that have dialogue in it that tell a bit of a tragedy, and it's really, really good. But he tops himself with the next one anyway, with To Pimp a Butterfly, his best album, generally considered to be, although some still think this one is better. I think this one is better. This one is a masterpiece. And then his follow-up to that album being Untitled Unmastered, a bunch of little snippets of songs that he recorded during the recording of this one. Untitled Unmastered is, although it's an unpopular opinion, it's one of my favorites of his discography, only just because I really like how the songs sound, and they're very, very good songs, despite the fact that none of them have names. But after Untitled Unmastered came Damn, the first Kendrick album that I listened to, and the one that got me into him as an artist, with a very fancy, nice gatefold here, as well as a nice back cover with the track list. Also, a great album. When Kendrick fans say it's not as good as the other ones, they are lying. They're all good. And then last, we have Black Panther, not technically a Kendrick album, more just an album that he sort of directed, in a sense, includes songs that he wrote for the Black Panther movie, but also just some other ones that he wrote around that time while he was working on this, so also a good album. Moving on, still in the K's here, I got quite a few K records. Avenue Road by Kensington Market. This album I stumbled upon in a record store, and I just had to get it when I saw the name. They are a Toronto rock band from the 70s or so. They named themselves Kensington Market, and they named this album Avenue Road. It's pretty good. I mean, nothing special, but it's just a fun little cute album to have in a collection. Doesn't this guy look like Bill Hader? I say it to everyone, but like, he really does look like Bill Hader to me. Man on the Moon by Kid Cudi. An amazing album, like I've said for so many albums. I mean, if you haven't realized by now, the reason I buy albums on vinyl is because I like them, generally speaking. So, yeah, I like this album, with some great artwork on the back here and then the inside, along with Kanye right there in the artwork. I don't know if that's in frame or if you can see that. Yeah, this is a really good album, exploring a lot of really interesting subjects, and it does kind of follow a bit of a story. I don't know. If you haven't listened to it before, you should listen to it. And here's another one that if you haven't listened to before, you should listen to it. Everywhere is Somewhere by K-Flay, or K.Flay. I really like this album cover. I don't know what you guys think, but I just really, really like it. I like the glossy red, and I like just how it's a handful of pocket shit that's just dumped onto a table. The receipt It does say the name of the album. It's a taxi receipt though, which is interesting. Yeah, this artist K-Flay, along with the other ones I was mentioning, like Halsey, was one of the first artists that I got into, got into their full albums. I got into her album Life as a Dog, or Life as a Dog, something like that. I'm forgetting it. That was her first album, and then after that, this one came out a fair bit later. To be honest, this was like one of the first new releases by an artist that I had gotten into when I started listening to music. Like, meaning it was the first time an artist that I had previously listened to and really liked had released an album after I had already become a fan of theirs, or at least one of the first times. I don't know. Point being, I like this album a lot. I have a lot of good memories with it because when I was working on my extended essay back in high school and spending my nights looking at Jupiter through a telescope, this was the soundtrack. If you want to see what kind of vibe it has, you can just see that picture of her on the back there. That should hopefully give you enough information about her musical aesthetic and everything. There's also a song on here called The President Has a Sex Tape. I'm only putting it out because that's a funny name for a song. Yeah, listen to it if you haven't. Next is Led Zeppelin 4. I'll be honest, I'm not super into Led Zeppelin. I don't know them very well, but I obviously knew songs like Stairway to Heaven as well as When the Levee Breaks, which are both on this album. I was given this album by my mom's boyfriend as a Christmas present because he just wanted to give me something that he was listening to when he was my age. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. And I really like it. It's a really good album. I really enjoyed it. One song on here that I'd never heard before that I really liked was Battle of Evermore, which is like this weird, I don't know, it sounds like it's out of fucking Lord of the Rings. And it also comes with a demo disc, being this back picture here, as well as the interior artwork is gorgeous. Like, look at that. Look at that. Very, very nice. I don't know if you can see all of that, but there you go. And then if you open it a third time, there's some pictures of the band and everything. I don't know. Again, not a huge Led Zeppelin fan, but I have definitely my interest has definitely been piqued by this. Letterman All-Time Greatest Hits. If you are wondering who the Letterman are, I am too. I bought this in the dollar bin just because they look kind of funny, and it has a song that I know that they covered called Put Your Head on My Shoulder, which is a Beach Boys song. I'll be honest, I have not listened to this in a while. What can you do? That's the dollar bin lifestyle. Melodrama by Lorde. Lorde is another one of the artists that I listened to back in the day. Again, listened to her first album, Pure Heroine, and then she released this one, which in my opinion is much, much better. Not to diss her original album, I just like this one way more. If you're seeing a theme in the kind of music I listened to back then, with Halsey and K-Flay and this, you are correct. Yeah, and this is just a very well-packaged album with some very nice pictures as well. Like, look at that. And then that's a very cool picture. Very, very cool. I like this album. Surprising, right? And next we have Mac DeMarco, a Canadian singer-songwriter. He is a bit of laid-back, psychedelic-ish acoustic vibes. I don't know exactly how to describe him. If you know, then you know. If you don't know, Mac DeMarco releases his albums twice. He has the normal album and then he has a demo version of the album. This is the demo version of his album 2, his second album. Shocking. It is on some nice bright green vinyl. Very cool. I have a couple more Mac DeMarcos here because I was really into him last year in university. Here is another one by Mac DeMarco. His third album, I believe. This is just the normal version of the album, not the demo version. With a really nice album picture. I really like this picture. It reminds me of cottaging and everything. This is my favorite album of his, I think. If you know Reuben King, this is his aesthetic. And then finally from Mac DeMarco we have Salad Days, which is his most famous album, but this is the demo version. And this one comes on very fancy white vinyl. Ooh. Yeah. So that's Mac DeMarco, and we are now about halfway through the alphabet here. And a little over halfway through the collection, I guess. Again, thank you for sticking through this video this long. This is Madvillainy by Madvillain, which is a collab between MF Doom and Madlib. MF Doom being the supervillain on this cover. This is a very good rap album from the mid-2000s, which has a lot of really interesting and unique sounds that are very unique to this guy Madlib, who's the producer, MF Doom being the rapper. Both of them come together very well. If you don't know about this album, you should listen to it. If you do know about this album, then you already know about that because it's a pretty famous rap album. Shine on Silver Moon by Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr. This is a disco single, as you can see. Back in the height of the disco clubs era, it was popular for record labels to release singles on full 12-inch, or I guess, yeah, 12-inch discs, because it made the audio quality better and allowed for longer songs, which works better in a club setting because the DJ wouldn't have to change the tracks as often. Next, one of my favorite groups, MGMT with Oracular Spectacular here. This is a great album. If you're around my age, then you've definitely heard the songs Time to Pretend, Kids, and Electric Feel when you were younger, back in like 2008. They are extremely popular songs, and I'll be honest, this duo will never ever again achieve the spotlight they had with those three songs, but because they don't actually like making that kind of pop music that those songs were, rather they're much more interested in making experimental music. So the rest of the cuts on this album are pretty experimental compared to those most well-known songs. And then moving on to their second album, they had a lot more experimenting to go through, most notably with the song Siberian Breaks. This is another 12-inch disco, or not disco single, but a 12-inch single of a song called Siberian Breaks, which is 12 minutes long, and it's about like 8 songs or so that are all strung together, and they all kind of have to do about surfing in the Arctic Circle. I got this. This was like a limited edition release of this single by itself. I don't have the actual album that this comes with, but as you can see, there's this very nice etching pattern around this back side of the disc, and then this is the side of the music. This disc has a hint of blue in it, so it's not entirely black, but it's pretty hard to tell, especially probably on the camera. In the Aeroplane Over the Sea by Neutral Milk Hotel. This is also a pretty famous album. This was from the 90s. The band behind this, the lead of the band, he wrote this album after reading The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. It is a very touching and very emotional album with very stripped back sounds, and it is just really, really, really nice. The song Oh Comely on here, which is 8 minutes long. If you know me, I really like when my songs are long. Oh Comely is fucking incredible, along with basically every other song on here. Highly recommend if you're looking for what is an easy listen, but you can get a lot out of. Okay, next up is the Golden Record box set by NASA. This is a box set that is a vinyl version of all of the music they printed onto the actual Golden Record that was attached to the Voyager spacecrafts and sent off into the emptiness of space forever. Basically as some sort of a time capsule of the human race. These are the instructions on how to play the Golden Record. That was on one side of the record, the other side being all of the music. And then this box set comes with a book with all of the images, some of which are just amazing, because imagine having to decide an album of pictures that will teach aliens about humans, right? Not that the chances of an alien ever even seeing these pictures is big or good or great at all. In fact, it's incredibly unlikely anyone will ever find this. But it's more of a symbolic gesture, I guess, and I'm not really talking about music now. But there's just a lot of really nice pictures in here from all around the world of different cultures and different people. And then there's the records with all of the music and sounds and whatnot they put on. They have a lot of sounds of Earth, A lot of music from all over the place. One of my favorites is they have a song of people saying hello in like 200 different languages. It's pretty cool. Of Monsters and Men, My Head is an Animal. I'll be honest, I don't listen to Monsters and Men that much these days anymore, but back in the day they used to be one of my favorite artists, and this was my favorite album of theirs. Again, another artist that I got into very early on in my career of listening to music. This one, both discs are on very cool and funky pink splatter vinyl. Yeah. I listened to this one the other day, still holds up. Even though, like I said, I don't listen to it as often, it still holds up. McCartney by Paul McCartney. His first solo album that came out, as far as if I am correct, like weeks after Abbey Road came out. A bunch of really nice photos of him and his wife and his kid and everything. This is a really nice album with a lot of good lyricless jams on there. There's a lot of cuts on here that are just like him and his band playing some songs. I also really like this picture with the baby tucked into his jacket. And then that's it for my Beatles solo albums. Sorry, Ringo. And next, and now reaching the end of my top row of the shelf, my most recent addition to the collection. I got it a couple days, like about a week ago. I Like Men by Peggy Lee. This was $4, and I'd never heard of it before. I just saw the cover and I thought it was really funny because to me it just reads like a woman asserting that no, she's not a lesbian or anything. She likes men. Stop asking questions. And all of the songs are just about how much she likes men. We've got songs like Charlie My Boy, or I Like Men, or When a Woman Loves a Man, or so It's So Nice to Have a Man Around the House, or Oh Johnny, Oh. Anyway, yeah, this is just like some smooth, calm 50s pop, so it wasn't even that bad of a purchase, but it was mostly just for the oddity. Now we're on to the second row of my collection, starting right at the gate with one of my favorite albums. Very original pick here. This is a little unknown album you may never have heard of called Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. I know I'm definitely not the first to say this, but this is a masterpiece. And this album is unlike anything you'll ever have listened to before. And it is just like anyone can relate to this album, and that's why I think it works so well for me, is just that like its themes and messages are just like so timeless and universal, and it's just an incredible listening experience. And this album cover is one of my favorite album covers of all time because it's such an iconic album cover and it looks amazing. The album cover is great, and then it flips over to the back cover where the colors align, and so does the white line. They both align, and then if you open it, the colors still align with this really cool gatefold. And this album is in this like kind of matte printed smooth texture, which I love. Next from Pink Floyd is Wish You Were Here, also another one of my favorite album covers, and also a very recognizable album cover because Pink Floyd has very good album covers. I really love the back cover of this album as well. One thing I love about this album is that, so this guy's on fire, so the edge of the image is burned away. And then this guy is standing in a desert, and there's a crack in the bottom and sand spilling out. And if you go in the inside pictures, this cloth is blowing in the wind, and so is the borders of the picture. And then this side here with the lyrics, this woman's diving into water, and then water's pouring out of a hole here. And then this is a little postcard of that same picture. This also is an incredible album. Some will say better than Dark Side, but in my opinion, no. But I still love it. Next up, Animals by Pink Floyd, another famous album of theirs. This is a great album about politics and capitalism, and yeah. I also really like its album cover with the flying pig. If you haven't listened to Pink Floyd yet, you're done. You don't even have to like it, just listen to it. You should just listen to it, at least once. And then lastly from Pink Floyd, The Wall. This is arguably their most famous one, maybe more famous than Dark Side, maybe not, I don't know. This is a crazy concept album about a band member going crazy, and it's bleeds the line between fiction and non-fiction, and yeah, it's a good album. Kinda slaps dough. Next, we have a little simple something that I got. Season's Greeting from CBS Records. I just bought this during Christmas time because I wanted a vintage little Christmas record that just has a bunch of random Christmas music on it. And I chose this one because I liked the album cover. Next, onto one of my favorite albums of all time. Ladies and Gentlemen, We Are Floating in Space by Spiritualized. I love this album. It is a crazy fucking psychedelic rock, I guess, voyage. And the album is packaged as if it's like drugs. He's got 2 tablets of 70 minutes long for oral administration only, use only as directed by a physician, and then there's like an enclosed, the discs are in like foil wrapping as if they're like medicine, and then there's this enclosed leaflet that like gives you like side effects, constitutes, active ingredients. They just explain everything, and yeah, it's really funny. It's a very nice, well-packaged album, and fits because it's a very great album about heartbreak and craziness, and I don't know, man, like, you should listen to it if you're willing to take the risk. It's definitely a bit crazy. And then next, also from Spiritualized, is this album, And Nothing Hurt. This one came out recently, and I got it recently. All of the song titles here are in Morse code. And I got this as a special breast cancer edition, where part of the proceeds went to breast cancer research, and that's why it's on this little pink vinyl. Otherwise, you have the Spaceman. Did you know that the leader of this band, his name is Jay Spaceman? I don't know if that is a stage name. I'm assuming it's a stage name, but it explains the kind of space themes he has going on in these pictures, in these albums, I mean. Next up is I guess, sort of a dollar bin grab. I bought this purely because the album cover looked interesting. This is True Colors by Split Enz, a Australian rock group from, I think it was the 90s? Oh no, 1980. And look at these guys. These guys are, these guys got the looks. And then the cool thing about this one is that it's etched. Close up on the etched vinyl on, like, it's pretty cool. I don't know. That was kind of the main reason I got this. Other than that, pretty good music. Nothing too crazy. Next up is a great artist, a duo called Surfing. This is their famous album, Deep Fantasy. I say famous, and that's kind of a lie, but it's famous in the vaporwave genre. This is one of the defining albums of the vaporwave genre, and I bought this personally from the group off of Bandcamp, as well as their other album that I have here, because I really like them, and they deserve to be more well known. It's just that the genre they make music in is just not a very well known genre. This is a top tier album for me. It comes on very nice teal vinyl here. I guess teal clear blue would be a better term, I guess. And then next from Surfing is Emotion, which is their most recent album that came out last year, with a wonderful album art, just like the previous one, but I love this one almost more. Just the art style is amazing. This is also an amazing album, with another great vinyl here, with blue on white on one side and white on blue on the other. Cannot recommend these guys enough, but I mean, you have to like the genre, I guess, of vaporwave. Okay, next, taking the stuff down from the wall because it is time for Tame Impala. Tame Impala, I'm pretty sure, is the only artist I have all of the stuff they have ever released on vinyl. This is Tame Impala's first album, Inner Speaker. I love them all, but this one really sticks out to me. It might be, I think it's my second favorite. I love the cover, and all of the songs in here are just incredible songs. He made the expert decision on this album to print blue text lyrics over a blue background picture. But yeah, the songs on here are amazing. I've been a huge Tame Impala fan for a long time, and I only got this one recently, and I love it. I love it to bits. Next from Tame Impala is his second album, Lonerism, which I think is my favorite, with this amazing album cover as well, taken on from Paris. Yeah, this is my favorite one. This was the first or second Tame Impala album I got on vinyl. Next from Tame Impala is Live Versions, which is just a small short album collection of recordings from his live show, I think it's in Chicago, of songs from both Lonerism and Inner Speaker. And this has an amazing album cover because it's just pictures from the tour. But like, look at that. So cool. So cool. Then, the Currents box set. Out of the box already because it was on the wall, but here is the album itself. Again, great album cover. This was the first album that I got into Currents, or got into Tame Impala from, but included in this box set is a little 45 single on floppy plastic, which still boggles my mind. This song is Power Lines, great song. These are all available on streaming in the Currents B-Sides and Rarities. Also included is this 45, which has List of People to Try and Forget and Taxis Here. And then he also has a book of notes about the album as well as lyrics. And then lastly at the very bottom is two 12-inch disco singles of a remix of Let It Happen and a remix of Reality in Motion. And what I haven't noted yet is that the discs for this album are on very, very cool splatter transparent bread, which is just sick. It looks even better backlit, so I'm going to take the camera here. Backlit of my screen. There you go, see? And you can see the video files of this very video in the background. That's how I'm circumventing the whole running out of space thing, just uploading them directly to Google Drive. And then, last but not least, from Tame Impala, his most recent release. I just got this very recently. I've never seen a new album come out on vinyl so fast. The Slow Rush. The packaging of this album is just exquisite. With a wonderful album cover. It's a picture of a place I've actually been to myself, which makes it that much cooler to me. A nice picture of him in the middle. But the coolest part, in my opinion, is these sleeves here. These wonderful pictures. And then this splatter red and gold disc to kind of represent the sand on the red backdrop for disc A. Then for disc B, we have another wonderful picture here. This was the album cover, or the single cover for It Might Be Time, I believe, or maybe Lost in Yesterday. And then this gorgeous picture of the desert on the outside, because these images are taken from a desert in Namibia. And then this disc is, to match this one, is gold on blue, so sand on the blue background. In terms of packaging and vinyl colors, this is probably my favorite vinyl I own, because these colors are just very, very cool. And then that's the end of the Tame Impala collection. And now we are at the last chunk of the vinyl albums. Afterwards, I will be going through the 45 singles that I own, which is a much shorter list. Again, I just want to say thanks for sticking through this much of the video. So, here we have Troye Sivan's Blue Neighborhood. Now, I've been talking about this whole time some of the first few albums that I got into on my own time and my own, and listening to on my own. Troye Sivan was the first artist I listened to on my own and basically jump-started my entire music taste back in middle school. Not with this, but with his EP TRXYE, which was never released on vinyl. But this album, which was his follow-up album to his second EP, because he had a second EP called Wild, and then this was the album that included basically all of that EP as well as a bunch of more songs. So while technically this album isn't the first album that I got into, it holds that place in my heart, at least in this album collection, because I love this album and I love this artist. He's very good. And yeah, I have many memories of listening to these songs, because back then I didn't listen to a lot of music. These days I listen to new music almost every day, but back then I didn't. So I was listening to his music on repeat for like months. Next, one of my favorite albums of all time, probably in the top 5 to be honest, Flower Boy by Tyler, the Creator. This was also my first Tyler, the Creator album that I got into back in 2018, and needless to say, he is one of my favorite artists and has helped shape my identity, and this album in particular has just, like, it means a lot to me personally as well as just musically. It's a incredible album. The album cover is one of my favorite album covers of all time. I love the gatefold here as well. Album photos go here, album photos go here, and then there's a little note saying that he was gonna have a good, he had an amazing photographer and took some sick photos for the inside here, but her agents or what the fuck ever said that it couldn't happen, so I relied on cell phone pics. Love you, next time. Yeah, I love this album. And then we have Tyler's most recent release, Igor, a very popular and well-received album, and this took 8 months to arrive. I ordered it in May, the day it came out on streaming, and then it showed up in December of last year. But, you know, I can't complain because it is an amazing album, and not many people put it as his best, and while I can fully understand that, to me I still like Flower Boy more, but it's a close margin. This one's amazing as well. And then now into the last two here, both soundtrack albums. This is just Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack album. It includes all of the songs off of that playlist. This was one of the first ones I got when I was starting my collection because I liked all of the songs on this, and to be honest, Amazing Awesome Mix Volume 1 was something that I listened to in, like, I think it was like 2016 or 2015, like on repeat, like for months. Yeah, so I have this. It also comes with a disc of the soundtrack, like the score to that movie as well, but I barely ever listen to that. And then last but not least, Vangelis with Blade Runner, the soundtrack to the original Blade Runner movie. I have both of those soundtracks. This one is like one of the greatest film soundtracks of all time, and yeah, you should watch this movie and listen to the soundtrack. And that does it for all of the albums. Now to wrap up the video, just onto the few little singles that I have, and then that'll be all. Alright, that last bit didn't record. Story of this video. It's like taken me hours to record all of this because of how many times I've had to redo things. But to go through my little collection of 45 singles again here. First we have a band called 13 Engines. These two songs, Waterfall and Personal Golem. They're a band from Toronto. I just got it because of this cool see-through red disc. Next is Do They Know It's Christmas by Band-Aid, which is just a group of artists like Paul McCartney, Duran Duran, Sting, Wham, U2. It was a charity song about raising awareness about kids in Africa, the idea being do the kids in Africa even though it's Christmas. Next is an EP from a band called Dadweed, a local band. I bought this purely just because their name is Dadweed. It's a great name. Next is this little disc I got for free because the store owner just gave it to me because I said I knew it. because Paul Anka, I watched a documentary about Paul Anka in my Canadian film class last semester. He was a singer most well known in the 50s from Ottawa. Here I have Bohemian Rhapsody and I'm in Love with My Car by Queen, obviously. This one's fun because I showed this to my mom and she said she thinks she had the exact same one when she was a kid. I mean, that song should go without saying. Finally, another little local release by a band called The This, and this song's called The Strangest Ritual. I only got this one just because I like the album cover, and you gotta support the local boys, I guess. And then, last but definitely not least, ending off with a bang, we have this, the singles collection by the Beatles. This is a collection of all 22 single 45 discs that the Beatles released throughout their career. These are all the ones they released in the UK. However, they have international covers on some of them, like this one, which is my favorite because this is a Japanese cover and it just looks so sick, as well as some other ones like Submarino Amarillo, I'm probably not saying that, by Los Beatles. Lastly, I wanted to show this one again. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but really you should listen to this song. You know my name. Look up the number, listen to it if you haven't. It's hilarious. I'll spare you going through the rest of these because it's very long list, and this video is already very long, but I'm very thankful to have this because you can't really get these anywhere else in terms of on vinyl, because a lot of them aren't on any albums. So you either just have to go to collections or individual collections like this. Yeah, but I guess that's kind of the end of the video here. Again, thank you for watching. If you've stuck around, thank you for being interested in my interests, and thanks for making it to the end of the video, Lawrence. Yeah, I guess if anyone's wondering why I collect all of this, I guess as some sort of closing notes. I don't know, to me it's mainly about, for one, I like physically owning music because as a kid growing up in the streaming world, as much as I love streaming music, you don't get to own the music and you don't get that, like, I don't know, you don't get that satisfaction of owning music and having it as your own. I don't do it for the sound. It has nothing to do with the sound for me. I mean, in some cases, if it's a used vinyl, I like the kind of scratchiness and that kind of sound, but I'm not one of those people who says that it sounds better on vinyl. It doesn't. It sounds the same. And then I guess another reason would be to support the artists more directly, again with streaming. Those streaming revenue doesn't support artists very directly, and while that might not be the case for big artists like Kanye or the Beatles or Tame Impala, but for the more little artists like C148, the guy who made the Minecraft soundtrack, or Surfing, or some of the other ones I've shown today, those ones, it's to support them, I guess. And then also it's because I really like album art, and I like being able to show off them as artwork, as these 12-inch slabs of artwork, like the new setup on the wall here. During the filming of this video, we got the Face collection. I put these all up because these are all album with Face pictures as the album covers. So yeah, I guess that's it. I guess this was a vlog. This was a YouTube video. Probably might be my longest one. I don't know. We'll see when I'm done editing it, I guess, which will be later because I'm tired, because this has taken forever to record with how many times my phone has stopped recording for who knows how many fucking reasons. But yeah. Yeah. That's it. Okay. I'm done.